Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back, everybody.
Please do subscribe both channels, EEARTS and also on Evolutionary Energy Arts. Both of them have unique videos.
Yes, so we can all walk this walk together.
And so we wanted to get a little bit deeper into some of the stuff that we've talked about many times, but maybe have not given you this exact perspective. Hopefully some things will click and there'll be some aha moments. I love those aha moments.
They feel so good. It's like a really nice yawn or something. It's just satisfying.
Absolutely. You know, these times you've heard it said that it's all about the sun. It's not about, carbon emissions coming from your tailpipe.
Right?
Yeah. Put that in your tailpipe.
Yeah. Stick it in your tailpipe.
Sickle maker.
Yeah, sickle maker.
46.
46.
Who, UN.
Yeah. Few. Mm-hmm.
Nanny poo poo, you guys suck.
Neener.
Exactly. Sometimes we just gotta let it out, guys.
We do.
You have to do that when you're in this little period of time. And actually, we may argumentatively be actually footsteps into Dwapara right now. As you see, the Kali Yuga, thankfully, is actually a smaller period of time than Satya, which is the Golden Age. And man, things are good. Things are good in the Golden Age. They are really good. And it's just a trip, and it's a journey. And in these times, it can be a tough one.
It really, really can. So we need to make sure our perspective is in such a manner that it's gonna be healthy for us.
So we have a strangely magnetized sunspot. New sunspot AR3088. So that's 19, that's 10, that's a 1. So that's new beginnings, looking at it numerologically. Is emerging in the sun's southern hemisphere. Its magnetic field is not normal. It's abnormal. Shown above is a map of magnetic fields on the sun. According to Hale's law, the sunspot's magnetic poles should be arranged plus or minus, that is positive on the left, negative on the right. Instead, they are rotated 90 degrees. Positive is on the top, negative is on the bottom. This is a rare perpendicular sunspot with magnetic poles orthogonal to the sun's equator. What's going on? Something unusual may be happening to the sun's magnetic dynamo beneath the surface where this sunspot is growing. Interesting. They're going to keep an eye on it for us. Well, thank you, NASA, NOAA, Space Weather. We know everything's going to have your particular twist on this. Now, the sun does have a basic 11-year cycle, and its poles shift during that time period. So it does indicate things are shifting. We are going into peak solar activity in 2024, 2025. And coincidentally, that's when 2025 is all those forecasts that we've heard about for so long now. The sun is a relay. We're going to get into that. And in many ways, it's a relay for other suns, and it's also a relay for Source, God with the big G. The Atlantic hurricane season's weakest start in 30 years, and then this is touching on that odd magnetism again. So back in May, NOAA's Climate Prediction Center predicted an above-average hurricane activity year. Yeah, that is totally, absolutely, completely wrong to this point. Mm-hmm. Just to show you how good those guys are, hey, you could take your Anunnaki technology and stick it where the Gigi don't sign.
In your tailpipe.
Oh, yes. Excuse me there. Okay, so the agency's outlook for 2022, which extends from June 1st, November 30th, saw a 65% chance of an above normal season, 25% chance of near normal, 10% chance of below normal. And so what we have now is virtually almost nothing. We've had so little activity to this point, and we really have had some anomalies. Now you can still most definitely have a strong conclusion that can pull all these numbers up and give us something that doesn't fall too far short. And of course, we do not discount the power of science and technology and satellites and HARP and CERN to alter things.
That's right.
When we look over at space weather, and we'll jump over here and see, relatively calm right now. A KP 1 or 2, that's not a lot of incoming energy, relatively speaking. You know, again, we were talking about how the sun itself is basically part of a neural network, so to speak. And many people have recognized this. And this is talking about the life and death of a neuron. What's a neuron? Well, it's a relay. It relays what? Information through the brain. And we look at what a neural network looks like, a brain cell here, and we look at the universe. Do you think it's just a coincidence that they look the same? They look so similar. In many philosophies, and in the Sanatana Dharma, which is the ancient wisdom tradition that has given us many different traditions in offshoots, and Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, in some ways, it has had a major influence on so many different thoughts. It's thought that we are literally experiencing all this in the mind of God. Some scientists like Paul Davies has written a good book that I read like 20 years ago, simply talking about that. The Mind of God was the name of this book by this scientist, Paul Davies, looking at it from a quantum science perspective. And what hit me was how quantum science and the ancient wisdoms of the East, the more esoteric traditions, are in really agreement. And we are, in fact, living in the mind of God ourselves.
Mm-hmm. One great big mind. So that's a lot of information right there.
And it's all about electromagnetic activity. And again, this is something that science has understood. And these are things they can't really hide. They can twist and distort certain things, but there's certain basic truths that the mass of scientists out there, that not all of them are on the payroll of these big corporations that are basically controlling what gets put out to the public because of donations, grants, the whole Babylonian money magic matrix that we find ourselves in. There's certain truths that we're going to understand, and they're going to have to basically allow us some truth, but then they always try to get us to think a particular way about that truth.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we need to understand that we need to step out of this matrix, because their truth is a truth that's going to control us.
So, we had talked about in videos past, and maybe you've heard of different terms like the photon belt, this area where there's a lot of highly charged energy. The fact that, our sun is not just stuck in one spot and not moving. No, it's always moving. And we're all always moving at extreme rapid speeds. And then we're also actually rotating around our central sun as well, Alcyon. And there's these cycles that we've been talking about, these yugas, these periods that really do also correspond with the precession of the equinoxes. So we can see this as above, so below reflection in our reality. So when we look at this wheel and here 12,000 years and 12,000 years, 24,000 years, precession of the equinoxes is like 25,920 years, thereabouts. And that's the whole cycle again. That's the wobble of the earth on its axis as it goes around basically this great big, not really a circle, a little more elliptical journey through our galaxy. And we're exposed to different energies at different times, and everything affects everything else.
It does, and that's really important to know, especially when we're taking care of our human bodies. We want to have good thoughts. We want to put healthy food in our bodies because we want to have a high vibration. Our conductivity is very important for us to function properly.
Yes. And so, again, when we see planets circling around the sun, one sun circling around another sun, there are other suns that are not currently available that Cindy was getting this info just right before this video. The guides were chiming up saying, oh, well, hey, you might want to know this.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is interesting. When I asked about the sun, they said there's 2 other suns you're not aware of. One sun is a black sun, and the other sun is a sun that we cannot see. And they said as we move up in vibration, these things will become visible. They will become something that's understood. So there's just a lot of information when we're in that dark age. That's darkness. We're not seeing it. We're not perceiving it, but it's there, and it's there for our growth.
Absolutely. Everything has been hijacked in this age. So, we have to work hard, truly, to get real information and to be able to take the time to learn how to discern things. Because if we take everything at face value, just, whatever New York Times says, whatever MSNBC says, CNN, Fox, we're not going to get the whole picture. We realize that now. When we look to Israel and the rebirth of Israel, how many of you, and I know you that have been with this channel since the beginning, or maybe for a few years, have probably seen this, is Ra-El. It breaks down, and you could reflect the is as Isis, which in Egyptian is Aset. Ra, the sun god, and again, Isis is the mother god, Ra is the sun god. El is a generic term, so to speak, for God. And then, when we do this as Christians, and again, I think most of us have been raised with a Christian background if we're not truly Christian. And then we could define what is Christian, because, today's modern Christian is not necessarily the same thing as what Yhvh was actually teaching. No, obviously, this is the controller's system, so they have it distorted. Amen, Amun. Again, there's all this distortion that's constantly going on. So Isis, Aset, is, a great representation of the mother goddess, and she is a real being. And so one of the things that gets, distorted a lot, well, there was a tradition of when the king was installed as the new king, he was also inaugurated as a god in many traditions. This is something that happened in the ancient world. Now, what is a god? There again, that's another whole thing. And if you're just saying a creator being, well, then we're all gods, because we're all creator beings by nature. That is our divine inheritance. And then there was also this classification of beings that used technology and had advanced knowledge to do things that seemed magical. And so they were revered as gods as well.
So when we say magical, really these beings just have advanced knowledge, advanced understanding that you and I have never seen before. So if a being like that comes and lands in front of us, we would be blown away. We'd be like, oh my gosh, they can make things disappear. They can make things appear. We would consider them somebody mighty in some way.
Well, magic as the art and science of making reality conform to the will without the use of anything that's obvious other than words, frequencies, vibrations, intention. And we really can, especially as one of the things maybe we haven't covered enough is that as we go up in density, our ability to think something into existence increases. And to me, that's basic science of how things work, but maybe it hasn't been said enough. Mm-hmm. So where we are going.
So where we're going is a place where we're going to understand things anew like we never have before. So leaving our minds open, our perceptions open, despite the things we're being indoctrinated with, is going to help us so we can enjoy all of these new gifts that we are part of. It's part of us. I don't like the word entitlement, but we are all born with these gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it? Don't you know it's written, "Ye are gods." Absolutely. So where we are going, we are going to be manifesting creators to a much higher degree than we are now. We have to be able to control our thoughts, our intentions. We have to not get mired in the muck, because we could find ourselves in a very, very unpleasant reality if our emotions are ruled by lower frequencies. This is part of the training to move higher up in the densities. We have to be disciplined. We have to change priorities in many cases. And it might not be easy. It might not be, as fun at first as the old way of doing things, but it's necessary if we're to grow spiritually. So Isis, mother god representation, Ra, the sun god representation. And of course, the sun is what brings us life. The sun brings us information from source, from the other suns, from the central sun. The sun right now is changing our DNA. And source, as well as the creator of this particular universe, which again, they are not necessarily the same, even though ultimately all is one. So, there is the source of all things created and uncreated, things that are made and unmade, things that are potential and things that have been. It's everything. And source is in every single bit of its creation. Otherwise, it wouldn't be source. Now, there are creator beings of a very, very high nature. So, there have been distinctions between gods and the higher gods at the same time. And again, God is maybe it's just too generic a term because it's been used for too many things.
It's like doctor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doctor of what? Well, yeah, I have a PhD in engineering, and yeah, okay. And so, that's very different than an MD, which is different than an ND. And again, you could have a doctorate in philosophy and show up at the philosopher's door, and he might be like, well, I could give you a lesson in Egyptology, but I have no clue what's going on with your stomach. There again, everything is much more specific. And then L is interesting. Self-styled creator of all things, father of the gods, and in Canaanite tradition, the god father liked to remain aloof and inscrutable, sitting high on his throne, wearing a bull horn crown. There's those bull horns. And, this is a tricky god to pin down. Now, one of the things to recognize is things evolved, these gods changed. And, I have this one subscription thing that I get articles of a scholarly nature that are sent to me all the time by people piecing all this together. And again, it's fascinating to see how over time things got corrupted. Oh boy, did they get corrupted. We were usurped. The true knowledge that we knew, when we get back to these time periods, the knowledge that we had here in the Golden Age, and then in the earlier parts of the Silver Age, it starts getting corrupted. By the time we get to Dwapara, it's a mixed mess, and in the Kali Yuga, it's the inverse. Dark is light, light is dark. And then it starts to show itself again as we leave the Kali Yuga. We start to recognize, we've been taught some screwy things. These things don't add up. And then we start to sift through it. We start to be able to discern the real truths. And over here, we're starting to get to a point where we know the truths in the Silver Age enough to start to act differently, really come together, and things start to become much more benevolent. And then we're in the Golden Age again, where it's working from a sense of oneness and understanding the true reality behind all things. So it's fascinating to look at L, the Ugaric tablets, Ugaric, Where did Abraham come from? Ur of the Chaldees, in what is today Iraq, where we had so many wars. The Ugaric tablets discovered as late as 1929 are very fragmentary with pieces missing. So much is conjecture. There are Hebrew scholars who believe El to have been part of the Elohim, who fused himself into one identity to become Eloah, the singular version. This might have led to mono-God status and gotten them into the Old Testament under the name Yahweh. One thing that we want to get across, and this is where people will gain a little bit of knowledge and then they'll go right down into a very, very dark place without knowing. Yahweh and the energy from El is totally, totally, totally different. Mm-hmm. And I'll let Cindy.
Mm-hmm. It is different. So when Mike asked me, who is El? I asked, okay, who is El? And what they showed me is they showed me a very, very bright, silvery white ball. And over that ball was a beautiful white cloud. So they told me this is a being that watches over us at all times. It's a benevolent being that's here for us, but will not interfere. And they do love watching over us when we're in this stage, because they say even though it does feel dark and it is very, very difficult, they said this is the most beautiful because you gain all of your soul growth here. And that really almost brought me to tears. And I'm still a little bit shaky after I channeled this being, because the vibration and the benevolence is staggering. And sometimes, yeah, it is hard for me to contain these energies, so it is like, I don't know, when you get you're excited, you're so excited that you're shaky, and you guys can probably tell I'm still not talking normal. I'm a little bit jagged. So this is this being's energy. They also told me that there's pieces that come off this being, and these are known as angels, what we call angels, who come down and help guide us through this time, but they will not interfere with our human experience.
So you could view it as, well, wow, that's actually really pretty dang close to when we view God as this creator being in a cloud watching humanity, sending his angels on down. So you can understand where that came from. But that's not Yahweh.
No.
That is not Yahweh. And that's where the usurpation of power by the controllers, again, by the Anunnaki, Draco, AI, Dragon Collective, has become sort of complete, and the distortion of them tricking us into thinking we are worshiping or giving energy or sending thanks to the benevolent ones, when in reality we're sending them. We're sending the dark AI, Draco, Anunnaki, GG, Illuminati, secret society controllers, the energy that really is something that we should be giving to the benevolent ones. Mm-hmm. They've rewritten and tricked this. So when you see the energy of Yahweh,
oh my gosh, it's way different. The energy gets very dark very fast. So that's a little bit disturbing. And as you can see, when you guys start to channel things, and everyone can do this, it takes some development, but you ask the question and you sit with it. You don't want to use your mind in any way. The energy is going to hit you like a gust of wind. So your body is going to feel it. I channel with my entire body, with my entire being, and not just in the 3D realm either. I'm able to feel outside of this realm. So you can tell definitely when I speak that name, it just, boom, it's like getting hit in the heart. It hurts.
So yes, the Yahweh side is the dark side that leads back to ultimately that AI Dragon Collective. So it's interesting. El is a point of conflict between Israel and polytheism. And this is where the distortion is made complete. Because again, when we're talking about polytheism and nature deities and all these different beings, we're really talking about a collective of different beings that you really can't put together in one big lump. Because the beings, again, that we've been trying to get across, the beings that we encounter in the Golden Age are benevolent beings. We're not encountering the dark beings that demand blood sacrifices. These beings are benevolent beings. And in the Silver Age, they're beings that maybe have a little bit more work to do before they get to being beings that are inhabiting the frequency of the golden age. And just like we have work to do right now. So, we're leaving the Kali Yuga. We're going to go and we're going to experience this Dwapara, the Bronze Age, and then the Silver, and then the Golden. And so they're all different beings that we encounter at different times. Really can't be lumped together per se. So, again, all gods, quote unquote, are not alike. All extraterrestrials are not alike. Anybody that says, all these extraterrestrials, they're all just fallen angels going to trick you, is very tricked themselves, because, extraterrestrial races, it's like lumping everybody together into one big cauldron and saying, hey, this animal is a dog, and it's really a sheep, and that animal is a dog and it's really a goat. Or you could even go with, hey, that's a sparrow, even though, it's a hawk or an eagle. Again, you're taking a variety of different beings that are very, very different, and you're lumping them all into one category, which shows absolute pure ignorance and not understanding what's really, really going on. There's so many different beings. And so, somebody said, and I've seen this a couple times, you either have to accept all the Bible or none of it. Well, in that case, I would probably toss it out because it's been so distorted. But if you are able to cipher and get rid of through it, it takes work. It takes some work. It takes a lot of deep meditation. It takes comparative understanding comparative mythologies and going deep in. But you start recognizing, and again, I started to recognize something was wrong the first time I read it cover to cover at 11 years old. That was 46 years ago. Something didn't feel right. And so I kept going deeper and deeper. And in order to memorize, I actually wrote like the book of Elijah. I copied it down by hand. I copied I hand copied all the minor prophets and major prophets in order to memorize all the scriptures. And so it really got ingrained in me. And then I read all the pseudepigrapha, all the non-canonical texts, the ones that were left out on purpose, and then got a hold of the Nag Hammadi and started studying some of those, the Gnostic texts. And you could see things are not in agreement. They're totally not in agreement. And then when you understand things are constantly revised, it makes sense. And they're revised again. Who writes the history? The victors do. Who is the victors in the Dark Age? Who are the victors in the Dark Age? Well, it says it's the adversary to humanity. Satan's the adversary. So why would you trust Satan's word? That's what you're doing.
Developing that discernment is the best thing that you can do for yourself, because sometimes you look at things and you read them, and deep down inside you can feel that seed saying, this isn't right, this doesn't feel right. And as you develop that, you start to understand, and you trust yourself too. Trusting yourself with this understanding, you really develop that discernment in a huge way.
So El became basically the generic word God. And when you see cultures, you'll see the bull. And you'll also see the bull being slain. Now, if he's referred to as the bull, and then many people take this as different ages. And, if we go into the different astrological signs, the bull, Taurus. And then we have Aries, because again, the precession of the equinox goes in inverse direction. It doesn't go clockwise, it goes counterclockwise. So we kind of roll backwards into Aries. And we see all the symbols, like in the Mithraic mysteries. Who's Aries? Aries is the god of war, right? And this is interesting. The bull is El, which again, the vibration that is given off of El is as a creator god and a benevolent deity. And if it is the source of all the angels and archangels, well, that's a really positive thing. So sometimes called the creator possessor of heaven and earth. Although a venerable deity, he is not active in myths, which primarily concerned his daughters and sons, often portrayed as an old man with a long beard and often two wings. And this is interesting, and it also relates to Cronus, right? So here you see the usurpation that goes on. Cronus, Father Time, right? And then we get into the myths of the battle of the Titans and the elder gods, and the Titans were overthrown, right? And so that is, in many ways, that's a myth that shows that the powers of the Dark Age had usurped the powers of the Golden Age.
And it goes on and on and on. So, we just have to keep reading through things, sifting through things, understanding what we are about so that we have that ability to take things apart and feel the truth in it, because it's that vibration of truth that's going to be our anchor to help catapult us up and out of this darkness.
Yes. So unfortunately, they use El as a synonym for Yahweh, very, very different, and also often as just a general term for a deity. So why do you have Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, Uriel? Because again, it's El. It's of El. These are archangels that are tied to this creative source. And so it's interesting. It is a different energy from the creator of this universe. And so Cindy, I think wants to. She just slapped me in the arm.
Sorry, me too. It's a huge difference. The energy that I feel when I'm looking at El is so high vibrational. It's really difficult to contain in a frequency way, whereas the creator of this universe, it's a deep, deep love that can be so overwhelming that I cry because I feel so much in my heart chakra. With this El being, it's like I can literally feel my body shaking and my heart expanding. So definitely two very different energies.
So again, you could see where Yahweh ends up usurping El, and again, the true Elohim are benevolent beings. When they called in mistaken way, or it was rewritten as Elohim, and we're talking about the Anunnaki, that's again another distortion. The true Elohim are benevolent beings. This is where everything is so distorted. So the Elohist, or the E source, is one of 4 source documents underlying the Torah, together with the Yahwist, or the Jehovah, Yahweh. And then you have the Deuteronomist and the priestly source. And again, they didn't write vowels. They, again, just noted where the vowels would go. They didn't put vowels in because vowels are powerful. So it was up to people who were inscribing and determining what went where. And over time, of course, again, the revisionist history. This is how everything is so twisted. This is how you have a truly benevolent being that creates the entire universe. And then you have that recreation that happens when the dark side takes over. So if we are using the term Yah, Jehovah, we are relating to, really, the forces of the dark takeover.
That's where we really have to find that understanding and that knowing about what's going on so that we're not led down the wrong path.
Absolutely. This is where you need to go deeper. And again, it's very, very unfortunately naive just to trust that everything you're given is true. I mean, there were many of us that back in the 1970s, 1980s, 1960s, 1950s, trusted what we were told in the news. Now we realize most of it was a bunch of bunk that was all about getting us thinking a certain, having a certain worldview and thinking in a certain way. And we were naive. This is where we need to go deeper. It's all about the yugas. It really, really is. It's all about the energies that are in charge of each age, the energies that dominate the age. And again, it's very, very naive to think that any one people that any one tradition it has got the only truth. No, are you kidding? With all the life out there, again, the true benevolent beings are going to give knowledge to all. It's just up to us to discern and learn how to discern. This is the Gayatri mantra, which taps into the energies of the sun. And over here, Savitur is sun. And then it also taps into the energies of the mother goddess. So if we view it again in a Shiva Shakti way, and again, you could take Shiva and you could see how Shiva has evolved over the years again, or devolved in some ways. Our concepts are always, again, being revised, shaped, and twisted by those that are in charge. And it's no different also in other religious systems as well. There was a takeover by the priestly class in India as well, and things changed. And, just power corrupts. It's just a sad fact. The same thing has happened in Buddhism and in all other philosophies and religions. Again, we've been living in a dark age in which the victors are dark energies which are constantly trying to hide the light. So the Gayatri mantra, we've done, I think, just one video on this. Yeah, I think just one video. If you go to the mantra playlist on EEARTS, you'll find it. Why are mantras so powerful? Well, Sanskrit, for instance, is thought to be the root language of all Indo-European languages that we know of at this point in time. There is another one that's older that we really don't understand yet, from which Sanskrit itself comes from. But this is the closest. Sanskrit has corresponding number of sounds that correspond to the chakra petals in each one of our in our bodies. There's like 55 of these sounds. There's 55 chakra petals. So by going through these different sounds, we're literally turning on our chakras. In certain ways, the mantras literally do awaken the light body. The mantras literally do help the light body to restore itself to where it is over time when we are operating at full function. The powers that be in this realm have done their very best to shut us down so that we're barely operating. And they want us, again, just to be their slaves. That's all they want. They want humanity operating as their slaves. But that's not what we are. We are co-creators with Source and with the creator of this universe. So yes, this is the one right here, the Gayatri mantra, the mother of all mantras. I'll put the link there. It's a universal prayer. And so what it really means, Om Bor Bhuvasva Tat Savitur Bargo Devyasa Dimai Diyo Yona Prachodayat. It literally means we meditate on that most adored Supreme Lord. Again, that's a generic term. The Creator, whose divine light illuminates all realms. May this divine light illuminate our intellect. So is that in any way, shape, or form something that's going to be inviting in the darkness? No, not at all. Quite the opposite. This mantra is said to have the power to actually burn off negative karma.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's always a good thing, but with this one, it is very, very difficult. What I have done is I wrote it down. I wrote it down so I can see it and just say it over and over and over, and give yourself plenty of time. Give yourself 6-8 months to learn it. There is no rush. What you want to do is make sure you do it right, not quickly. So as you're doing this and you channel the energy with your entire body, this is going to help open you up and bring you to a place full of love and joy and kindness. It's my favorite mantra.
Absolutely. And, when you think of everything we just talked about and you think about this mantra, maybe, it really hits you. Again, meditating on the most adored Supreme Creator whose divine light illuminates all realms, physical, mental, spiritual. May this divine light illuminate our intellect. It is an invocation to take in that light of the Creator into oneself. It literally changes our consciousness.
And the light of information is, it's instant. There is no thinking about it. It's like a flashlight being turned on. So all of a sudden you might get this information, but then it does take time to be able to decipher it. So give yourself plenty of time for to go through this. Enjoy it. It's all about the journey. And I hope you guys got something really, really good out of this. I hope your heart chakras have been opened up. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. And again, we are dreaming a dream with the Creator. And that is the ultimate, that's kind of like the ultimate point of thought in many of the Vedic Hindu lines of reasoning is, if you're a Vaishnavite, and again, that, we can label the source of all, we could try to label that, but that's something that's actually not even labelable. It's so big and so vast. And then the Creator of this universe, a Vaishnavite would call him Vishnu, but he would be known by other names to other people because he doesn't belong to just the people of the Indus River Valley in India. No, of course not. And again, he doesn't even belong to just the people of Earth because there are countless realms. There are so many suns and so many planets that have so much life. This is how big this being is and how benevolent this being is. And we are all part of the big dream that is ongoing, and we can take hold of our portion of that dream and manifest a positive direction.
Yes, and it's our job to experience everything.
As always, Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.